Welcome back to Talking Points, and thank you for staying with us. We should be joined by our guest very shortly via Zoom. But as previously mentioned before we took the break, we were speaking about a situation that was highlighted recently about the plight of fire services here in TNT. But specifically what is happening in Tobago.
Yes.
I think one of the more unfortunate stories that I've heard is that there have been some firemen who've actually had to pay out of their own pocket monies to repair, is it the Scarborough fire station? And up until this point, they haven't been remunerated.
Well, part of the story, because it's more than just the issue of one fire station.
No, of course,
but
yes.
part of it is the irony that part of the Scarborough fire station was destroyed by fire. So, that's some light humor just to add, but the reality is it's causing a deficiency with the amount of facilities. Also, there's the fact that some of the fire stations on the island, we know Roxborough seems to be brand new and it looks beautiful and everything, right, that Roxborough fire station, but it seems like the fire stations more on the western end might be old, out of date, dilapidated,
I think Roxborough is having its issues as well.
That, of course. Now, we are joined by the president of the Fire Service Association, Leo Ramkisoon. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. That's a sound check. You hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear here. So we started off introducing the topic to the folks while we were trying to get you into the Zoom meeting. With regards to the Tobago issues, are we right to say that, well, there are not only issues with the Scarborough fire station, which was partially destroyed, but also issues of just obsolescence and space being too small and too old and dilapidated? Some of these fire stations have been in use for, well, probably since before I was born, as far as I could remember. And they are in desperate need of either some sort of renovation, repair, or replacement.
Yes, you're quite accurate in your description. The issues that are affecting the station, and if I could start probably on the Crown Point end of the island, that fire station, as you would have rightfully described the conditions, to be well outdated. It's a very old station. It was due for reconstruction within the last 15 years. That was supposed to have been done, and that has not been effected. So the officers continue to dwell in that or to occupy that station under conditions which are, rendering them in unsafe and unhealthy conditions. That is because they are exposed on a continuous basis to carbon monoxide and other toxic gases that emit from the trucks when they are in use and being tested. They are exposed directly to the runway of the airport. They are, bombarded with the elements, dust and sea blast and everything. So that station was to be expanded so that it could house the engineering department and to house the personnel themselves. Scarborough Station, as you rightfully pointed out earlier, was affected by a fire. They did do some renovation work to the Scarborough Station itself. It is not complete, so the officers are still being housed in the Canby facility. And the Roxborough Station, last but not least, that station was shut down in about 2013. The USH agency having shut it down, and then it was rebuilt. And after being rebuilt, now we have examined that station during last week. And what we have unearthed is some structural issues that are to be addressed. I note that the divisional fire officer in charge of the Tobago division would have issued a public statement yesterday indicating that UDCOT, who would have undertaken to build the station, are responsible for addressing those structural issues that are affecting the stations. And we have not yet started to talk about appliances and equipment. So yes, the structures and the conditions of the stations themselves are not in a very good place at all.
Mr. Ramkisoon, since these issues were raised, now I know that since at least last year, I recall that you were raising these issues. You raised them again most recently. We heard that's how money is being spent to try and actually facilitate the procurement of equipment But beyond that, has anything else been said or suggested to try and solve these issues that fire officers are facing?
Well, I mean, comrade, you may be aware we visited the Tobago division, much like we visit stations all over Trinidad and Tobago, and we spent a few days in Tobago examining the conditions, especially in respect of Scarborough Fire Station in particular. Now, the issues that affect Scarborough Station appliances are not exclusive in terms of how it affects appliances across Trinidad and Tobago. However, the officers there are not manning the fire trucks because of the deplorable and unsafe and unroadworthy condition of those appliances. And we would have highlighted those findings publicly. What came out of that is that yesterday, the trucks were called in by the Ministry of Transport to be inspected. And what we are to understand is that none of the fire trucks, at least 3 fire trucks and 1 or 2 ambulances were tested by the transport department, and they were failed. They did not meet the compliance of the Road Traffic Act to be roadworthy. Only the ambulance passed. What that means is that the officers are fully vindicated in their position that the trucks are posing more of a threat to the public and to themselves than if they were being used at times. So,
Mr. Ramgi, sorry, if we were to just be more specific then, should there be an emergency on the island of Tobago? Because I'm not speaking specifically of Trinidad this morning, but if there was a major fire incident on the island of Tobago, could the authorities respond to deal with the issue? Are there resources to actually deal with any major fire incidents on the island?
Comrade, I don't know how to answer that with any real level of commitment towards resources. I think the administration of the fire service needs to address that question. Hence the reason why I am speaking publicly about this. I am trying my best, as instructed by my members, to ensure that the public and everyone is made fully aware beforehand that they did everything in their power as fire officers to resolve this problem. What they are being asked to do is to operate trucks unlawfully on the roadway at their own, compromising their own selves in terms of the law, as well as safety precautions for using of vehicles on the road. And that is why I did make the call to the chief fire officer to apologize to officers when he sought to lay blame on them. And I'm saying that because he made the statement that officers are bouncing trucks and officers are negligent in terms of how they operate in trucks, and that is why there are so many defects. Well, when I checked why the trucks were failed yesterday from the transport, they were failed for things like missing nuts, studs, wiper blades, the suspension on the trucks are faulty, missing mud guards, cracked windscreens, you name it. And all of these issues had nothing to do with negligence or mishandling. It had everything to do with poor maintenance and lack of parts and other supplies to repair trucks. So I make the call again for an apology to be issued to fire officers across Trinidad and Tobago, because by and large, all of the trucks that are off the run, by and large, 90% of them are off the run because of maintenance problems.
Well, Mr. Ramkisoon, this, of course, we've just had a couple of high-profile incidents where, in one case, I believe it is the earlier case, a mother and a daughter were killed, and then in the more recent case, residents complained not only did the fire service they weren't able to find the hydrant, they didn't have basic equipment, the first truck took some time, the follow-up truck took even longer. Now we've seen tragedy to some extent in Trinidad. We're questioning about Tobago. Is this Are there any questions with regards to the amount of resources being allocated to the fire service on a regular basis? Because it seems as though this sounds to me like what I hear about other areas about public service. Not enough resources being allocated, particularly to maintenance. So, you kind of take it for granted that you could manage, but then eventually the wheels start to fall out, rhetorically speaking, and in this case, possibly soon to be literally. And all we need now is some very, very easily preventable tragedy. And then will we say we need to fix it as opposed to taking it before it, well, we've already had one. How many more are we going to have? But is it that resources is a problem just in the long term, widespread across the nation?
Yes, it is that age-old God is a Trini attitude towards business. We are a reactive state, and that is reflected in how we manage our resources. The trouble with us is that the fire service do not respond to ordinary day-to-day requirements of the public. We respond to emergencies when life and limb, as well as property, is threatened, and therefore there needs to be a commensurate approach to ensuring that your fire service is up and running. But we tend to wait until things happen, and I cannot send out enough condolences on behalf of my membership to the mother and daughter who would have perished, and others who would have lost loved ones and property. We are deeply saddened by these circumstances. But I want you to understand something, comrade. In the same way that officers, when they don't have a truck to respond to the public, the assumption is that, well, the officers, we tend to look at how it affects the public and the community and so on. But I want to also point out that it affects the officers themselves very deeply in a psychological way, because they are frustrated not being able to attend to emergencies within their own communities. Sometimes when it happens within their communities, friends, loved ones, burgesses, members of the public are calling on them, and they can't do anything, and they have to wait for a truck to come from some other district and have to respond. And they are frustrated. It's bearing down on them in a psychological way, because they want to do work. They are trained, they are ready, they're keeping themselves in a state of readiness, but without the requisite equipment and appliances, they are stymied and are hamstrung. So I am again calling on behalf of the membership that where the chief fire officer and the ministry may not be able to speed up the procurement process to repair the trucks or so on, I think that at the level of the prime minister or higher, we need to ensure that we get even international assistance where it needs be. We could probably talk to Candice Bond, Her Excellency, and see if we could get some assistance from the United States in terms of resolving this problem.
Mr. Ramkisoon, we don't have much time again, but very quickly, it's a question more for clarification than anything else. Who is responsible for maintaining these trucks?
Well, ultimately, the chief fire officer is responsible. He would have officers under his command, which would be the brigade engineer, and they generally would be the officers responsible for maintenance of the trucks.
All right, thank you for that, sir. Unfortunately, we are out of time, though, but thank you for your time this morning and for just updating us on that issue, especially what's taking place on the island of Tobago. But keep well, sir, and we hope that this issue is resolved in less than a year. In less than
a few months, but we hope only goes so far.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to continued communication with you to keep the public updated. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ramkisoon. Take care. President of the Fire Services Association, Leo Ramkisoon. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on Talking Points for news on the hour. When we return, we'll open up the phone lines this morning.